Welcome to another edition of the Card Authority minicast. AJ, once again, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely, my man. Great to be back in the seat and recording with you again. And what an opportunity and what an episode coming up here with this next special guest.
Well, look, we'll jump straight into it. We're very lucky to have Grayson from Cherry. Grayson, welcome to the Card Authority podcast.
Afternoon, guys. Just got an issue. I haven't got any video showing. Is it okay at your end? Or?
Yeah, we're all good, mate. We've got you here, so thank you. We can see you, and thanks again for making some time for us.
Not a problem.
Look, we'll get straight into it, Grayson. For the listeners or the viewers, should I say, that perhaps are new into the industry, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how Cherry Collectables sort of came to be?
Yeah. Myself, I grew up in Tasmania and had a keen interest in cards growing up. I did my work experience at high school in a card shop. I spent my childhood, finding loose coins around the house and buying packs of cards. So I definitely had a close affinity with cards, but I always had a direction to head into horse racing. Spent my life working in the horse racing industry and then moved to Melbourne to work in the horse racing industry. But unfortunately, with the global financial crisis, I was thrust out into the unemployed sector. And the only way I could make ends meet was building small websites in the basement of a property that I think was used for Blue Heelers episodes to do with abductions. So, yeah, I think that was rock bottom.
Yep. Well, it's pretty
albeit,
close. Yep.
Yeah, I could see the rocks. But I was surrounded by really amazing people, and I had a little light go off that perhaps I should look at doing something with cards again. It had been a few years. So Cherry, I guess the little seed of Cherry was planted.
Okay, great. So obviously you've had a huge interest in it and you've well and truly become one of the leaders in the industry. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You've got a huge store here in Melbourne. You guys have got all the breaks, all the stock, all that sort of stuff. So you're well and truly one of the market leaders. And I guess that sort of moves straight into talking about, I guess, the hot topic at the moment, dominance. You guys were certainly very proactive and very aggressive about getting involved. Select, as we've congratulated and you've congratulated over your social media, put out an extremely well-crafted product, this release. What caught your attention early on about it, about why it was going to be so successful?
Early on, and we kind of knew it was coming, but the captain's signature checklist was going to be extremely popular.
Yep.
When we first saw the checklist, the high flyers checklist, I think really made everyone's the hairs on the back of the neck sit up with so many amazing legends in that set, and we probably started to get the inkling with sets like the Influentials and the Dominance that there was a real shift towards that limited production run product, which we've seen Panini and Topps deliver so well in our wider sort of card categories. So yeah, I think that those elements in particular made us feel that this was going to be a popular release.
And you guys as a business made a very, and I use the word aggressive in not a negative context, but a very strong and positive move to acquire as much stock as you could pretty much on day one. You put out a bounty for $4,000 a case. Obviously there was limited release. There weren't many cases around. Was this just a simple attempt to gain stock, or is there a bigger picture play here of why you wanted to accelerate and help the market mature?
It was definitely to get stock. Ideally, we would have the amount of stock that we'd require for the first 3 months tucked away with our wholesale relationships. Unfortunately, there were factors with the Series 1 release, and our order for the Series 1 release had to be cut back by, like, I think we ended up getting about 20% of what our original order was,
Sure.
due to importing issues with, I think, the first wave of COVID. So we weren't in a position to get the volume wholesale that we would normally move through quite easily, and as it turned out, we actually would have needed a lot more as well, which we kind of thought we would. So we knew that we were playing way behind the 8 ball. When the smoke clears from this release, we'll have sold probably half of what we should have. And at the end of the day, that's even if we sold it for double, if we sold it for $1,000 a box, we wouldn't turn over the revenue from this collection that realistically we need to, to have a team of 10 people. You need to be able to move volume, and ideally the way that's done is that we'd sell 200 cases at retail price, which makes it easier to sell, more customers buy, and we're able to sell more volume. And unfortunately, things worked against us that we knew that we couldn't do that, so we had to go to plan B.
Yeah. And when you acquire that sort of volume of stock, is the majority of that to be, and I guess that's split up in different factors for your business, but both Adam and I were talking about previously that it's been fantastic that you've been able to get so much single stock available up on eBay and on your website so people can acquire those missing cards. But there's also a big part of that as well, doing breaks and selling packets and boxes and things like that. Like, where was the main source of where you were going to move this stock that you got?
Well, it's hard to say. You kind of you see where the best value propositions are. Realistically, we like to break down about 10 to 15% of our stock for singles, and then that just increases the amount of touch points, the amount of different customers that we can provide hopefully really good experiences to, and have as ongoing customers in that category. When you have something like this happen, you just need to let the market show you where it wants the product. Football breaks or AFL breaks are not an area where we're really strong at the moment. They're a slow break. They are a very difficult to sort break. They take a lot of time to sort. So in terms of an entertainment perspective and a operational perspective, we prefer like a supremacy, and ideally we would do more supremacy breaks than we would do this type of product. So end of the day, most of our product is going to be boxes, which we've been doing about 2 cases worth of boxes a week, and singles, which we'll continue to restock with. And I think we picked up like another 4 or 5 cases today at about $5,000 each. So, which is still, still profitable to break that down. And that's just shows what a great product that Selective produced.
Yeah, so that leads into quite an interesting topic, which the AFL market, which again is only just really starting to mature in terms of the AFL trading cards within the bigger picture of the hobby and the marketplace itself. People are not used to, like in terms of collectors within the AFL market, are not used to those market forces at play in, say, NBA or NFL, where the recommended retail price of the product is not something that is stuck to at a retail turnover level. We saw it happen with Supremacy, but it took a while to kick in. Supremacy sold out instantly. It was the first time it had really happened with the product. However, we didn't see those double price cases or double price boxes really happening for quite a few months afterwards, because the people who purchased with intent to turn them over knew it would take time for the value to mature. Whereas this time around, very much fueled, I think, by the Prestige release a couple of months ago and the success of that release. There was a lot of hype, there was a lot of buzz, and certainly with the way the collation works and the sequencing with the hit structure and the hit guarantees per case, it was very clear that people who are in the business of moving cards could work out very quickly that it would be very difficult to lose both on the singles market, but therefore on the breakers market or the resale market as well. I suppose it's one of those things is, at what point does it hit a ceiling? Because NBA cards are very different. You can open a $5,000 case or box of NBA cards and hit something. You've got less than 1% chance of hitting it, but you can hit something worth tens of thousands or potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. In an AFL product, your risk is not as significant because there's more valued hits available, but the value of the individual hit itself is never going to be up there with what the NBA stuff is. So at what point does it create a ceiling? Like you just said, you've bought cases at 5,000 now, and I'm starting to think to myself, well, how much further can you go, and how much further can the market go, or are we going to see singles reprice here? Is that going to be a factor in all this as well?
A good question and good overlook. The singles, you can see a new singles pricing. I mean, the pricing that we've been getting for many of our singles has eclipsed any AFL single pricing. I mean, I think you probably go back pre-1968 to find cards that are selling at this price, and it's a serious price. We sold one the other day, one of the 01s for over $3,000. So the cards that probably would have sold for 400 or 500 last year are pushing to 1,000. So I think the singles are being repriced. I don't know how much further it goes. The difficulty with AFL obviously is that it's not global. The players are never going to be global athletes. There's the odd exception of a Ben Graham or a Anthony Rocker, but generally speaking, they're staying here. So I think that the box values are probably going to struggle to get over 1,000. I think that they're probably going to get close to 700 though, if I had to pick a number.
Wow.
The singles is a really interesting point though, because no one's opening this product. So there's so much sealed stock that there's going to be so much less singles. In a few months, people that were sitting on the fence about their influentials or their dominance are going to start to get itchy.
That's right.
So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting point. The NBA is a far less volatile market than people think. Luka Doncic was hitting 23 points a game. He was an absolute all-star. He was on track to definitely play finals in the first few years of his career. Everything was going great with Luka Doncic. You could buy Optic Contenders basketball boxes for $100 US, $98 US if you got a really good negotiator. They didn't move. Now they're $1,000 US a year later. They were. It's not this market surge. I don't think necessarily it's just NBA related. I think it's just market related.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think that it doesn't matter so much whether the AFL is global or whether the products, etc. The market is just bigger than the product at the moment, and on the flip side of that is that Grant decided to go tight this year with his production run, so he didn't have a lot of cases. It was probably COVID related. I'm not sure. It got really tight, and
I think
there wasn't much of it there to get.
I think a lot of that is Select is also sticking to what their production runs have been historically for the last couple of years. And I definitely, from an outsider's perspective, it looks like they're trying to go down the path of the international operators like Panini, where it's not making the same mistakes of the 90s, I suppose, where you're doing more series but lower production runs. So therefore the cards become more finite and you've got a better ratio of collectors, speculators, investors versus the actual volume of cards within the marketplace. And I think the big winning thing, I think, with AFL and what's critical to AFL, because there's so much team collecting involved as opposed to player collecting or random collecting at different points based on performance. It's a team-based collecting standpoint for the most part, is the numbering. The numbering is so critical. Where if a card's numbered to 40 or numbered to 80 or numbered to 300, it's a huge determining factor to the price. Whereas in NBA, for example, a base rookie card, which has no numbering and no one really has any idea how many have been produced or in circulation, can have a much higher value than a card that could be even a one of one. So it's a different space where I absolutely agree with that broad sentiment. And it's certainly something I've been preaching for a while now, that the market in general is growing. It's not just sports cards related. It's not trading cards related. It's collectible, tangible objects. It's not just from a hobby perspective. People are looking at different places to park their money at the moment. There's alternate asset investment going on. There's all sorts of factors, and that's connected with COVID. And it's all been this perfect storm that's all come together on the global and an impact of the global sports card scene. And certainly, we are feeling it in Australia. And, people talk about the bubble, but I think this isn't going to burst tomorrow. It's not going to burst last week, like lots of people told me, and it's not going to burst in a month's time. People are so invested in this now. And I get more inquiries today from members of my friendship groups and the broader community than what I did last week and the week before and the 2 months before that. But it was only probably 6 months ago that one of my mates even mentioned something about cards with me. It's now the cool thing to talk about at the moment. So there's people from all walks of life coming in, and you're seeing it, and people are loving it. They're enjoying all aspects of it. And I think one of the things I've noticed, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well without dragging the conversation out. I've got a lot of friends who have come in out of an interest perspective because they heard cards were a good thing at the moment and values were going up. And they came in with the intent to want to make some money in some way, shape or form, but they very quickly turned into a collector once they received that physical, tangible object. So the importance of the physicality of it. And I think that's one area where AFL seems to be getting it pretty right at the moment, is the quality of the product that's coming out.
Quality's amazing. Yeah, I mean, we get a huge amount of feedback, and generally speaking, that feedback, obviously about fulfillment and got my stuff quick, loved your packaging, thank you for this. You get all that sort of stuff, but we do get a lot of people that want to know how best to collect the products and what's a set I can collect, and if I'm collecting, how should I go about X, Y, or Z? So I think that there's a perception maybe that there's all these people suddenly in the marketplace that just want to make money. But, the reality is that like it was in 1994, there's a really good segment of everything. And, Panini are focused on younger collectors. They've got massive dollars into sticker sets, massive dollars into sets that almost offer no value. Zion Rookie might still sell for $10, but for the most part, they're just a really collectible playing card. Select obviously produce their Footy Stars set, and for the most part, that's a collectible set. So I think that the manufacturers are pretty focused on this still being fundamentally collecting. So I just want to just quickly say to you guys, I don't know if this is a complete live broadcast or anything, but I'm looking at a black screen, and so if I'm off camera, if I'm
no, you're perfect.
You're
I
good,
do
mate.
apologize.
You're perfect. It's all good. It's being recorded as well, so that's all good. We try not to edit much, and hopefully we won't have to. But yeah, it's all good.
Well, we might edit out some of Adam's ramblings, but yes, we won't edit out any of your
right.
stuff, G. That's fine. Look, we won't hold you up much longer, but I guess we'll probably a more a crystal ball sort of question. Where do you see not only the industry and how it's maturing, but where do you see Cherry in the whole scheme of things in 12, 18, months, 5 years down the track?
You're trying to give me an anxiety attack. We're really positive about this whole boom, this bubble, whatever you want to call it. We've been investing literally since 2016 in building a really good foundation, and I'm lucky. I've got a team of nearly 10 people that are passionate, that turn up early, leave late, that pull our heads in anytime someone starts to do something that they don't think is in the best interest of the customer. We fight amongst each other in terms of what we want to create next, and then when things aren't working, normally within a day or two, we're sort of punching each other and saying that we should have done this, and even I think Blake listed a dual AFL box break with a prestige and a dominance, and it was maybe taking a little bit longer to fill than a dominance break, and he was already copying it as a bad idea. But we're constantly looking for something else we can do that's going to maybe just add a little bit more value, and particularly during COVID with soaring box prices and slow fulfillment times and slow support times, etc. We've really been challenged to work out how we can keep improving. We're currently getting our site redesigned, and we're hoping to launch that with a few new services early next year. Tops are really keen to improve their footprint for baseball and entertainment releases. Panini's given us a huge amount of support, unprecedented support with soccer. We're going to have so much UEFA Euro 2020, and I think already we've put maybe 5-6 cases of that into the marketplace. I don't think anyone else in the world has actually listed it yet. If they have listed it, they haven't sold any. So we think that this market in general, despite not having enough, is in a position that is really good. And I think as NFL continues to grow off the back of Tua, off the back of Joe Burrow, as soccer continues to grow off the back of Greenwood and Mbappe, I think that this bubble will it may shrink a little bit, but it's not going to pop. So I'm positive.
Excellent. Well, look, yeah, we're certainly very positive too, and that's one of the reasons why we've started to move forward with the Card Authority, because we really believe that this is a growing, maturing industry, that there's a whole heap of opportunities to not only educate and support people, but also just help them enjoy and have as much fun as they can in the industry. So look, Grayson, thank you very much for joining us today. If everyone out there wants to go and have a look at all the things that Cherry offers, check out cherrycollectables.com.au. They're on all the social channels. I'm sure Grayson and his team will be able to help you out with anything you need. But once again, Grayson, thank you very much for joining us on the Card Authority podcast.
Yeah, no worries, man. I just want to just jump in there too. That one of the feedbacks we have had with AFL in particular is around singles pricing, and this goes for most of our singles. We literally have like 20,000 individual singles items, and we made a decision some time ago many years ago now, in fact, that we needed to be pricing singles to essentially make it much easier on our lives. And that is that we can't reprice them all the time. So we often have a buffer, which we don't normally need to assess, 20, 25%. Sometimes cards will be right on point, but most of the time it's 20, 25%-ish. So please hit that make an offer button. It costs us a fortune to have it there, whether it's on eBay or on the website. But we expect you to, and please don't be offended by any pricing. It's purely so that we don't need to spend all of our working lives repricing cards.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah.
And you've talked about that before, and that's certainly something I tell a lot of people, because you guys obviously bust a lot of stock and you have a lot of very nice singles and desirable singles on the market. And you've always preached, we set our target price very high, but we do take offers. Our expectation is people will make an offer on it. So please come and do so. And that's certainly something I reiterate. And I'm glad that you just said the 25% market, because that seems to be what I'm telling people about your cards as well, is make them an offer at about 25% below, and it'll be likely to get accepted most days of the week. So fantastic stuff there. And I think it's a really exciting time. And I know AJ agrees as well. And I think you do too. Especially for our domestic AFL market, which we're very entrenched in. It's a real exciting time ahead. As you said, like, you know, the prices may be going up, but the quality is also going up as well. And it's a reflection of the marketplace, and people really, from a mentality perspective, really just need to understand the market conditions and move with those market forces as well. If it was $400 yesterday, it doesn't mean it's going to be $400 forever. So, yeah.
Spot on. And congratulations to Grant and Select. They've done a great job, and everyone wins. So it's great.
Absolutely. Well, mate, thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Look after yourself, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
We'll see you in the store once we're allowed to visit again.
Once we're allowed. That's right.
Once the door's open.
Yeah.
See you later.
I got to go check
Thanks,
my
Jay.
break results quickly from last night. Thanks, mate.